A memorial service has been held for 14-year-old Likona Fose, who was killed in her area just in the last few days. The memorial service was held at Nkoni Maruping Primary School in Bromfisherville. Her mutilated body was discovered not far from her home a day after she'd been reported missing in Durban Deep. Mourners gathered, as I was saying, at the primary school today to remember the teenage girl who they say her life was cut short and are demanding justice. Now, the Durban Deep community has so far said that they're fed up with crime and that it's time for the authorities to act against criminals. The police's occult unit has now been roped in to investigate Fose's death. Well, let's delve deeper then into the latest crime statistics released by the Provincial Commissioner of Police in Gauteng. Despite efforts to tackle crime, the province remains one of the most violent places to live in the country, but there has been a drop of 7.9% in overall crime levels in Gauteng, at least according to what we learned today. Let's bring in social commentator as well as community builder in the Tsakane area, Ali Gule, community activist in Eldorado Park, Charis Pretorius, and the chairperson of the Gauteng Community Policing Forum, TJ Masilela. My thanks to you all for your time this evening. Ali, let me start with you. As I was saying, a 7.9% drop in overall crime levels in Gauteng. Murder is also down by 10.8%. But is that reflected in the reality of the people where you are?
Good evening to you and your viewers. Thanks for having me. You can mention the drop regarding crimes, but, one death is too many. People on the ground, they do not realize and perceive murder, crime, rape, hijackings, you name them, in terms of percentages. The crime remain a serious issue in Gauteng, especially in Gauteng, although the entire country is affected by crime. I don't think, to answer specifically your question, people on the ground can perceive certain percentages of dropping. This is supposed to be awareness of Child Protection Week or month, but today there was a memorial service of a 14-year-old learner who was murdered in Roodepoort. It's not the only one. The statistics continue everywhere. People don't feel safe even in their homes.
Charis, let me bring you in because Eldorado Park, where you are, has long been in the news, especially in the last decade and a half, in terms of drug dens, gangsterism, etc. You guys have even been protesting in recent years as well. Have things got better?
Unfortunately, things haven't gotten better. They've actually gotten gradually worse. And the challenge that we have right now is the mere fact that our hierarchy of SAPs seems to think that we are exacerbating the figures. We know exactly who the family members are that have been killed due to violence on our streets. But it would appear that we are grasping at straws, or we're trying to exaggerate. And those are the challenges that we are faced with. It's gotten worse.
So, TJ, I want to bring you in then because you sit at a position where you're able to have a bird's eye view of the crime situation in the province. If we're hearing from Tsakane and Eldorado Park that there hasn't been much improvement in the lived reality of people, yet the statistics released by police today for the fourth quarter 2024-25 tell a different picture, where is the disconnect?
No, thank you very much. Crime will always be a depressing topic and a very sensitive one also, because people must feel and be safe. And it's a process, and you will agree that the 7.9 decrease it's not across all crimes. Obviously, there have been some improvements in maybe in contact crime, for instance, which is always bring our crimes to time. Possible murder, you can't hide. Murder is it has to, because a person has passed away. There's a process of government that takes place. So if in the last quarter we see some improvement, we also say that we can do more. But to answer your question, we still in the process, and at a certain point in time, where we would say people are safe and people do feel safe. The crime stats release is based on what has been reported, and obviously one can argue and say, but that's not all that has been reported. But I guess the crime register is working on what is being reported and what you have, and it will always a yardstick, which sometimes might not be realistic, but it wants us to follow every crime release in every quarter so that we can be able to see where is it going down and where is it going up and what are the stations of concern. Obviously, areas of Eldorado Park, and you have your top 15 stations in Gauteng, where Eldorado Park is one of those, including Johannesburg Central. Hillbrow also has come in, Midrand, and so forth. But those crimes, when you zoom into these stations, you will see that it's different crimes, and some of the crimes are actually more, I would say, demonic. Right. If you look at because they create a big hype, a big problem. I mean, how can you kill a 14-year-old and mutilate the body and so on? So some of this make a community be uncomfortable because of the nature of those crimes.
And I want to come back to you then, Charis, on the point that TJ was just making. I wonder if in Eldorado Park you're also seeing a pointed edge, if you will, in terms of the crime levels and how women and children are being disproportionately affected. But then secondly, you touched on this in your earlier response, there appears to be a breakdown in the relationship between the community of Aldos and police. To what effect, or to what extent, in fact, do you think that is playing a role in the inability to arrest the situation of criminality there?
Beautiful question. And just so that I've said this before and I'll say it again, TJ and his stats are somewhat skewed, so we're not going to go down that road. When it comes to the relationship between our community and SABC, it's non-existent. We need to call it for what it truly is. It is non-existent. And as much as people want to say, yeah, no, SABC is doing a great job, on the ground, people beg to differ. And right now, the biggest challenge that we have is there is no cohesion. It's a them and us kind of situation, and it's been constant. Our new station commander, well, we can't call him new because he's been in the position for quite some time. He has not yet engaged. He refuses to come to the ground and actually speak to the residents who have the information. When it comes to witness protection, we have those challenges. I mean, we had the Minister of Police in our community, and that very evening we had 2 individuals shot. That very weekend we had people killed. So ultimately there's a complete disconnect when it comes to SABC and the community of Eldorado Park and communities like ours. And there's no way that we can sit back and say, oh no, it's getting better, because actually for us on the ground who are living it every single day, it is getting progressively worse.
What about women and children? What ways, or in what ways are they being affected by the scourge of crime? And who is committing crime in Aldos at the moment?
Well, when it comes to women and children are always impacted adversely. We look at crime entering and infiltrating our schools. So it impacts on children not just in their home environment, but in their academic careers as well. So it is twofold, and the negative impact is there. Moms are constantly picking up their dead children from the streets. So there's no way that women and children are not being negatively impacted on. And there's no way that we can sit back and say, oh no, it's a case of, because it is Eldorado Park, because it is Westbury, because it is Riverlea, because it is the Cape Flats, that this is what the expectation is. There's no way that we can actually get to that point. And when it comes to the negativity that we constantly have to ward off, because that is what's being propagated, it is unfortunate that predominantly these are coloured areas, and we sympathise and empathise with everybody that has lost a child violently. But the harsh reality is there are certain key areas within our communities that are just not being addressed. There's challenges when it comes to hotspots. We have pointed them out to SABC, and the same crimes occur over and over again. And it's almost a case of, oh, well, you know what can we do?
Okay.
Because we now see that our SAPS officers also fear for their lives in the latest video that we saw from Westbury.
And in Tsakane, Ali, I want to come back to you then. Is the situation in terms of crime fighting being a collaborative effort between the residents, CPFs and police, is it working better than what we're hearing is the situation in Eldorado Park?
I think in our situation, if you mention CPF, they're doing their best they can. But we must be careful not to sort of say the situation is bad, is only bad in the Far East Rand or in the East Rand. The situation is bad everywhere in Gauteng. But just to add on what Charis is saying, I think we must work hard to close the gap of us and them between the police and the community, because the trust between the community and the police is almost at the lowest. We must work harder again on educational awareness to educate the public as well. As much as they are victims, the public must come on board and report every sort of criminality that is taking place in their place. Because sometimes at some stage, community can be their own worst enemies. They are the one who are buying stolen goods, and they are the one who don't report criminals. But let me quickly sneak in this one. People don't trust police because there is no educational awareness that sometimes, despite the shortcomings of the police, the Department of Justice is making the issue very worse. Take, for instance, the case of Oruna, the lady from Bloemfontein who has just been murdered.
Eldorado, yes.
It is reportedly that the perpetrators at some stage were arrested and were released on bail. How many kids get killed by people on parole and people that are released on bail? I think this department, the Department of Justice, ordinary people cannot separate police from Department of Justice. When person is arrested today and the next week or next month is seen walking down the street, the trust between the police and the community is getting much lower. We still have to work harder. That department is not doing justice.
So TJ, Ali is encouraging more people to speak out. Like if you see, so basically if you see something, say something in terms of crime. But how do you encourage people to do that when Charis was saying, for example, where she is, even witnesses to crimes are not guaranteed protection. In Marry Me Informal Settlement, also in Gauteng earlier this year, people who had grouped themselves together as community patrollers paid the ultimate price when they were killed by criminals there. So what is the cost of speaking out, and is it worth it when you're not guaranteed protection from the police?
The truth of the matter is that today at legislature, one member of parliament, provincial parliament legislature, mentioned something that I think I took it to heart, where I was talking about Eldorado Park. When do we sit down and say to Eldorado Park, how do you want to be policed? If we, because we are misplacing people in certain positions and certain areas. The people shall govern. The people should be able to decide how they want to be policed, and you must take that into consideration, so that the trust and that is what I've learned today, and I'm really prepared to take this to the next level, including the cries that you get, especially in those areas where we have the anti-gangs and so forth. Have we engaged maybe these communities in a certain way that we make them part of the crime fighting machines? The councillors are the ex officio of the CPF, so they can't be outside of the space, because they must help us also to help our communities and in the fight against crime. But are we placing right station commanders? Are we putting the correct people in the correct positions in these areas when communities are raising this? It's something that I've actually listened today with the heart, because it said that we are misplaced. But coming back to your question quickly, we have to continue encourage, like Ali has just mentioned, that communities should not be their worst enemies. We must, because if we don't do that, we are standing a chance of history judging us very harshly. We need to continue to encourage, we need to continue humbly so speak to the people. Police stations must have a community in Dawa all the time. Before you used to have it every month. Because then in there you can see who are the people that actually you should integrate into the crime fighting mechanism.
Okay.
We've spoken about technology now, and maybe it's something that the policing summit, we can take some of these resolutions into our stations and our CPS.
TJ, thank you. I hope we can have all three of you back on for a lengthier discussion. But for now, thank you very much. Social commentator and community builder in the Tsakane area, Ali Gule, community activist in Eldorado Park, Charis Pretorius, and the chairperson of the Gauteng Community Policing Forum, TJ Masilela, speaking to us on the back of the release of the last quarter, the fourth quarter statistics in Gauteng for crime.